so excited. Yay. So we have Gina, who I have had on before, Gina Ingram, who's one of my girl crushes, because she has been traveling the world with her family. And she's got two girls and a boy. This is Caitlin and Cassidy. Right, Cassidy, Caitlin, you have to introduce yourselves because I can't point. Yeah. And they are her two daughters. She has a son as well, Trevor. He's somewhere in the background, and we'll talk about his YouTube channel also. Let's do that. But Gina, as you know, has been traveling the world with her kids, world schooling them. She is absolutely my idol. I want to come back in my next life as her child. And literally whatever she's doing, I want to do. So, so Gina, talk a little bit about how you started and why, and then let's talk to the girls and see what they're doing, because you guys are the byproduct of what all that Gina's put into this. And I know these girls, of course. I want to either again come back as one of these girls. I want my boys to grow up to be these girls, or Trevor. So tell us how you started.
Well, it was always a dream of mine to travel as a child. And so when I got married about 25 years ago, my husband and I started traveling and kind of became addicted. And so we were determined to live, at the time, just live in Europe. We wanted to live abroad. So we started living in Europe. We lived in 8 different countries, and we also spent 11 years in Italy. And so we had our girls were born living in Italy, and Trevor too. And when Trevor was 5 and they were 14 and 12, we were kind of fed up with the whole school system and how the indoctrination of where we were. We were in Venice, Italy, a little very small town, very small, education mentality at the time. And we wanted more, and I loved traveling so much, and there was so much of the world I had yet to see, but trying to travel on summer holidays or school breaks was really hard to see all the places we wanted to go. And also we were limited with just kind of that closed-minded mentality, and we wanted to broaden their mindset and let them see new places and just kind of learn about different cultures and the diversity of the world. And so we decided to just take that leap, and we left Venice in 2013. And my husband had a remote job at the time, and so we just began traveling. So it's been 7 years now that we've been traveling around the world. We've been together to 100 countries as a family. And it started off with 1 year. It was supposed to be 1 year. And then that turned into 2, 3, 4, and it's just nonstop now. Because once you start traveling with your family and seeing the benefits of it, it's really hard to go back to a normal life. And so so it all began as just a dream as a child and the desire to explore the world. And then it kind of snowballed from there. And once the momentum hit, it just kept going. And so here we are.
So a couple things. Number one, what's really exciting, I know a lot of people say, well, world travel is out of the question for me. But 7 years ago, a remote job was even harder. And now I think this pandemic is showing that you can do a lot of things remotely, and you can, every year that YouTube is up or the internet, you can create ways that you can have a remote job and be a nomad. I think the other thing is that you've shown that you can do it on a budget. Like you aren't, you haven't stayed at the Ritz-Carlton in every place and flying a private jet everywhere. So I think that that's really important to let people know.
Yes, we started off spending exactly what we were spending to live in Venice at the time. So between rent and all the expenses with that, school expenses, activities, utilities, all of that added up. I promised my husband that the only way I do this is if we kept it in the budget. Exactly. And we did it for the first year. And then eventually, years go up and down. So we can easily stay within that budget. And I just spoke to another world school mom the other day, and she said she's from Australia, and the 4 years that she's been world schooling, she saved $170,000 in what they were spending, because they do things like home sits and different things I've been interviewing other moms that have done this lifestyle, and I'm learning all kinds of different ways you can do it. You can do it my way, you can do it their way. So I'm going to compile all this into a great series where I can teach people all the different ways you can do this world schooling lifestyle, and for all budgets, all kinds of job, kids, ages, everything. So there's always going to be a way to do it if you have the desire to do it. There's really nothing stopping you but you and your own kind of mentality of what you think society or what is right for your family, because you can always find a way around things, I think.
If you can push past the social conditioning, the pressure of people saying, that's crazy, why don't you have them in school? They're not going to get the best education. They're not going to go to high school. They're going to miss out. You know what? I'd love to talk to the girls about like that missing out, which by the way, I have nieces who probably aren't on this, so it's okay, who are in high school. You're okay. Trust me. What you're missing, oh my God. I'm hoping my children miss what these teenagers are going through. So tell me what what's that experience been like for you to World School?
Yeah.
You want to go?
Sure, I'll start here. Well, I was always one of those kids that always dreamed about high school. I always went to like the typical American dream high school and used to see it in the movies and used to kind of like dream about that. Wow, it sounds so amazing and so like out there, and I always wanted that. But then when I started traveling and I realized all of the connections you can make, all the things you can learn, all of the friendships, and just seeing the world, and volunteering is something that we really like to do. So just having all these amazing experiences made up even more for the lack of having that normal high school experience. And so I definitely feel like there's so much more that we can really experience when we see the world, when we really volunteer, when we really push ourselves more than just, going to high school. And not that there's anything bad with that normal lifestyle, but there's just so much more you can experience in so many ways that you can enhance your life through travel, through volunteering, through all these new experiences that just really expand the world that you are in.
And the truth is,
I was.
Go.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, okay, perfect. I just wanted to add on to what she was saying about at the beginning, I was very nervous about and sort of afraid of all those people who are going to say things like exactly like you mentioned, like that you're not going to get an education. What are you going to do about college? Because we would hear people question mom and dad, but then in the process, we would listen to them, ask them questions about, well, how are they going to find jobs and what are they going to do? And that would sometimes sit on me because I was confused. But as soon as we started, I realized immediately how those naysayers were wrong and how we were actually being exposed to so much more. We were gaining so much more knowledge and wisdom. And like she said, nothing wrong with a normal lifestyle, but I feel like nowadays, especially our generation, needs an open-minded mentality. We need to think innovatively. We need to think creatively to solve some of the issues that we're up against, like climate change and social injustices. So I think that this is almost a necessary thing for our generation to have this global mindset. So I think it's really important. I'm really grateful they pushed through.
And didn't listen to those people. So clearly you guys speak well, you read well, you are, you're well educated. So you're not out, just throwing your lives away and partying, which anyway, I'm not going to comment about high school in normal, but again, every experience is what you make it too. I mean, I think one of the great things that you're so lucky about your mom is she was really intentional too about, we're not just going to go hit the road and, and just eat at some cool restaurants and see some cool gift shops. I mean, really intentional about that worldly education. Tell me a little bit about sort of those intentions that you had, because you're so clear about them. And by the way, don't let me forget, you can pre-order your course, which is so valuable. We've been pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. I'm like, just write it for me. I don't care about all the other people. Just write a little manual for me. So we can pre-order your course. How do we do that?
Oh, and we have I sent you a link to our website, globalexploreracademy.com, and it'll be on there in the course catalog. It's called Explorer Family 101.
So Global Explorer Academy. Heather, I know you're on my Instagram. Can you write that in the feed, please, for me? Because otherwise I might get too distracted. And Heather, I love you. Thank you. Global Explorer Academy. Go to that website because there you can, what's it called? The Family Adventure?
Explorer Family 101.
Okay, Explorer Family 101, which I love because that means there's going to be a 201 and a 301. And we've already made you commit to all that. So
we have many other, like Todd's, my husband's doing one on how to take your job remote and travel. So all kinds of ways that you can do this lifestyle. And it doesn't have to be like we did where you live full time on the road. You can do this 1 month or 2 weeks, whatever it is. Just it's more of a mentality of being an explorer and how to gather the most you can in the time you're out in the world, to let your kids explore deeply, intentionally, like you said. So it really is an intention, and it's all about the way you perceive it in your heart and your mind together. And so not just to travel with it, just, you know, on the surface, but go deep and to experience those connections with people, learning from the world, and it's in a way that have pretty much molded my kids. And so it was an intention, like you said, because I just wanted them to be because I grew up with, I had a disability growing up, and a lot of hard times, bullying and things, and I just had such a compassion for people that were suffering, and I really wanted the kids to get out of the bubble they were in and experience the world, and to go deeper on a level that was more of, you know, just experiencing the world and seeing the way that different people live, and to connect with people in all different walks of life, and just not that one kind of bubble mentality that I think a lot of people grow up in. We were still in Italy, and yet we were still in the bubble. So even though we were away from America, we were in the Italy bubble. So it doesn't matter really where you are, you still can be in a bubble. And so I wanted them to be out of that and just explore all different cultures and learn about diversity, and then the injustices and human rights and just all that. And you can only really get that if you're out in the world seeing it firsthand. And so that was my intention, to see all walks of life. And I really wanted to smash the stereotypes, especially about the Middle East, because we had, have a Lebanese culture, my grandfather from Syria and Lebanon, and we have I didn't like the way that people have this stereotype about Middle Eastern people. And so we intentionally went to the Middle East. We've been to pretty much every country in the Middle East several times, and became friends with these people. And so that was just another stereotype I wanted to get past. And so they've been writing about that. They have blogs. I mean, we have so much information we can share with you, blogs and different, she's writing books about all these kinds of things. And so just to open the mind. And so once you get past that, we started going to more places, you know, in Africa, Southern Africa and Asia and just South America, and to start little by little opening up those maybe those judgments we grew up with where we don't understand another culture. And so just to be able to slowly open those and break those stereotypes in our minds.
I'm also trying to get Gina to just give me your itinerary. Just tell me like where we're going, where am I staying, what restaurants. And then I'm trying to get you to do like where you're going to host it, where I can just follow you. You know what I mean? Just meet me there so that you can be, you know, you can hold the umbrella, tell us where to go as a family, and, you know, tell us where to stay, you know, who are the nice people. Because I think we are a little afraid of like, I don't know where to go. I don't want to take that leap. Like, I don't want to be in a bad area. You know, there's certainly a ton of information, and I think that's part of the problem is we are drowning in information, but we're starved for knowledge. So like, there's 1,000 blogs out there. Well, who do I follow? Who do I trust? And I trust you. I know you. So now all these people are going to trust you. How old are your daughters? That's what we're asking here.
So I'm 21 and I'm 18.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your journey and your experience. I know you were a little bit nervous about it, but like what are the things you remember most? And then we're going to get to Caitlin's book that she's doing, and you guys have blogs and you're doing courses. So I want to hear all of it. Everybody's going to want to hear it. But tell me a little bit about that travel.
Which one?
Yeah.
The girls?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll start. So at the beginning of our travels, like I said, I had a lot of these thoughts and ideas before we started traveling, and I really didn't want to leave Italy. So this is
12.
I was 12. I was 12 at the time.
12 and 14, that's a really hard time to leave anywhere. Like, wow, that was brave, Gina.
I know.
I'm sure that, I mean, you know, the thing is we have this fantasy that you picked up and your girls were like, of course, mommy, wherever you want to go, we're going to have a fabulous time. I trust you. It didn't look like that? No.
It was far from that. Yeah. So Caitlin was actually quite open to traveling. She always kind of had that traveler mentality and always wanted to see the world. And I was the opposite. I just wanted to stay in school. I wanted to be with my friends. I was just like, I just want to be in school. And I even threatened to tie myself to a pole. So, you know, your regular things. And because I was so stuck in that
feel so better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just so stuck in that mentality of just a small town mentality. I don't want to leave. It's all about friends. But then after the first about 6 months of traveling, I was kind of like secretly loving it, but I didn't want to actually say anything. So I just continued on this path of, oh, I don't really like it. I want to go back to like Venice, go back to my normal life. And then we ended up going back to Venice. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I kind of like this traveling thing. So now I just love it so much. I love traveling. I love meeting all these different people.
Well, you also saw the difference. You explained like the difference in you as you changed.
Yeah. So the real experience, I didn't feel like I had a lot of passion or any drive or motivation for anything specific. And I feel like that my friends and that whole friend lifestyle was what was making up for that lack of drive or motivation in my life. But that all changed when we started working with refugees from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan in Turkey and Greece. So I didn't have anything at the time that I really could grasp onto, but when we started volunteering with these kids and we started seeing the difference we were making in their lives by giving them basic supplies, by giving them educational things, or just playing with these kids, I just saw the difference that I was making in their lives, and that made a difference in my life because I knew that I was here for something greater than myself. So that was in 2015, and ever since then I've completely changed, and my whole life is just based around how can I help other people and how can I just make a difference in the world.
I mean, really, Gina? I mean, I can see the halos over all three of you. And I know it's not perfect. Look, we're human. I do Happier by the Minute. It's not perfect. I'm sure your girls might bicker every now and again. You know, we're human, but it is such a beautiful way of thinking. So tell me, and one of the 5 pillars of a well-lived life is meaning. And meaning comes from something outside of yourself. And it's such a huge pillar. So how did you, I mean, I'm just curious, how did you even start with volunteering with refugees? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah. Do you mind if I tell the story? All right. So it initially started really by chance. We were traveling and we heard, we saw on the news actually a story of a little boy who sadly drowned. He was trying to cross from Turkey to Greece. And because they can't cross because of paperwork and things like that, they had to try and do it illegally. And this was right at the height of the refugee crisis. So there were thousands of people going through this every single day. And it happened to happen in a place that we already knew. So we already knew this place where it occurred, and we felt an immediate connection for that reason. We had just been there that year, and so we were like, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And I think now when we look back, there was this immediate sense of a purpose and a calling, even though we didn't realize it at the time, because we flew out there a few days later. We changed all of our schedule, all of our plans. And we showed up in Bodrum, which was the town, and saw refugees from Syria that were sleeping in the streets, families that had no shelter, no food, nothing. And it really hit us hard. And I was 15, 16 at the time. So, and she was even younger. And we 13. 13. Yeah. We were so moved. And immediately we felt like we had to do something. So that's how our journey started. We raised a couple $1,000s in a few weeks with just family and friends. We started donating toys and playing with kids in the streets. And it really snowballed from there. And like she said, our biggest experience was working in a refugee camp in 2016. So a year later, we worked there for 6 months, and we really just connected with these people, and we focused on true, authentic connection, like as human beings beyond the labels, because there were so many people that were like, but you're so different from them. How can you trust them? They're from Syria. What do you know about them? And we realized they're just human, and we connected with them. So we started like a makeshift school. We started teaching English, math, and different activities and things like that.
She was 14 at the time. She had just turned 17, and they had started school. I mean, that was just unheard of at the time. They were the youngest volunteers there, and because of the chaos of the situation, they were able to just we were just able to go in there, and their school just grew from like 5 kids to like 35 kids in a couple of weeks. People just explain the connection.
Yeah, sure. It was the difference was that some people had come into this refugee camp that was a makeshift refugee camp and tried to teach these kids and tried to put almost their different mentalities from their countries, or try and implement a school system that they recalled that they learned. And the problem with that was that they weren't adapting to the kids. And when the kids started, having us as their teachers, and we were all the same age, they realized, oh, wow, you're just like me, just like we made that connection. So that was how we really managed to teach these kids, and in a way that they would understand, was because we were their peers. We were more than just their teachers. We were their friends. We were their family. And so we taught 2 classes, one with little kids and one with teenagers. But it was just so amazing to see this connection that we have with these kids still to this day. We still write them. And like a couple of them are actually in our organization, and they're ambassadors for our organization. So we're like super excited because we're still in contact with them. But it's truly powerful to see how youth can really connect so much more because of that youth, because they're peers. And so that's really what made the most difference in that refugee camp. And by the end of our time there, every kid there knew our names, and we'd come like walking in, they'd run up to us and give us hugs like, Cassidy, Katrina. It was really cute, but yeah.
That's so great. I don't like, that's exactly what I envision for me and my children, like just to get out of this bubble, any bubble, you know, to move beyond and do service. And what you learn from that is so much greater. And clearly, so how old was Trevor at this time?
He was just turned 8.
Okay.
Yeah, he was just barely 8, and he was in the refugee camp the entire time. As like one of them. I mean, he looked like them because he would run around with all the kids, and he was just one of the other kids. He didn't think of it as, I'm in a refugee camp. He just was playing with kids just like him, and they could communicate barely. You know, he would learn some Arabic words, and they learned some English words. And it's just so beautiful when you take away labels, like she was saying, and it's just, we're all human. You don't have, there's no reason to ever have a barrier and fear of someone being different. And that's what I think I've taught the kids is, there's nothing to fear. We're all the same. That, you know, just take away all the labels and see people for who they are and their humanity. And so that's what I think one of the biggest lessons. And for me too, and I've learned a lot because I grew up in a typical American, you know, world. And so it's just been so beautiful for me too to see the difference that I can make. And now I've become this Mama Gina figure through for hundreds of kids. And so I have this whole other family that they write me every day. I get someone, hi Mom, how are you? Or Mama. So it's really beautiful for me too, because I have this connection with the world. And so it's just there's so much out there. The world is so big, and there's so much opportunity for growth and connection. It's such a pity to sit in one place, you know?
Here's my big question. So Trevor was 8. Were you really worried about his math, his writing, his science? Were you making sure that he knew fractions, was doing worksheets and getting some school? Like, now is the time when people are panicking. And I mean, goodness sakes, at 13, 14, 16, were you worried that they weren't learning calculus? Weren't you worried that they weren't reading, you know, English history and doing book reports? Yeah.
No, they literally took, we had no real school for 6 months, but they were learning Farsi and Arabic and how to teach and how to connect. It's stuff that you can't even, what you're learning is so deep, and it's so important because it's stuff that sticks with you forever. Whereas you can study a fact in a science test, but you'll forget it tomorrow. But yet these kind of things will last forever. So you're learning things like intrinsically that, I mean, Trevor, he didn't go to school for that 6 months, real school. He was literally being schooled in this camp. And yet what he learned completely changed who he is. I mean, his whole, who he is as a person, the stuff that he'll take with him, you know, forever in his life. So you can't even
people right now are panicked that this 2 months is going to set people behind. They're not going to get in college. They're not going to get into the right high school. And I love that you help us take that fear away, because we just have this linear idea of what we're supposed to do, you know, elementary, high school, college, and it's not linear, and it doesn't need to be linear. And you can still have a rich, fulfilling life, even if you don't get that high school diploma or that college diploma and then work at Google. And you know what I mean? Like, there's so much more.
And you know, life, because of the way technology is growing and the way it's a global mindset now and work too, that everything changes so quickly. So if you start college, by the time you're a senior, everything you've learned the 3 years before could be obsolete because everything's changing so quickly. But I was kind of worried, I have to be honest with you. We went and talked to some college counselors at the American University of Rome. I talked to people from Oxford. We have a friend who's high up in Oxford University, and someone at Yale. And they all said to me, oh my God, your kids, don't even worry. You don't have to take an SAT. You don't have to do anything. Just, we want them because of their experience, their knowledge, what they've done. I mean, you can't even, because they don't want the dime a dozen. They want someone that steps out, that isn't like everybody else. Everyone is fighting for the same thing. They're all exactly the same. We all have our extracurricular activities. We're all whatever, president of the ASB, we do this. But when you have someone completely out of that, who's done something so outside of their comfort zone, and they've learned so much flexibility, adaptability, open-mindedness, critical thinking. I mean, the skills you learn through this kind of a lifestyle are, you can't even, I mean, there's so many, I can hardly put them all down on one sheet and get, and so that's what we were told by someone in Oxford, especially our friend. They were like, oh my gosh, you guys wouldn't even hesitate. Because it's so much more than grades. It's so much more.
Jump on that real fast and say it is funny, because that is something that I hear a lot as well, even at my age, because I'm in the typical like college age, is, are you learning this? Are you learning that? And all of those topics, like you mentioned, like science. And what's funny is it has almost come for full circle for Cassidy and I, because we first learned through those years of volunteering and traveling, all of these things like compassion and empathy and a global mindset and unity and global citizenship and all of these things. So we were gaining those as almost our foundation, even though we weren't learning things like science and math. But now, because of this, the way we are, we're studying things like human rights, politics. We're going through, we just printed out all of the human rights, the sustainable development goals, and we have like a giant stack of just printouts that we're going through, and we're studying human rights and what that means in each country and how to implement them. And so even though a very academic level, and so it is funny because people would think that we wouldn't be doing that because we never were trained that way, or trained as in like the schooling and the mentality. But it's actually the opposite, because we understand our place in the world. We understand that we have a duty and a responsibility to make it better, and we have the passion for it. Now we're diving into all this academic world because we understand what we can do when we have that knowledge, versus just getting it like on a test and then learning it and then forgetting it the next day. So
You're
it is
intrinsically motivated. You're motivated. And that's what I say, you know, when people say, well, he's not going to learn math or science, you know, what if he wants to be an architect? Well, if he wants to be an architect, he's going to want to learn math, and he's going to want to learn, you know, geometry and geography. Like, he will be intrinsically motivated. I think you've proven that with Trevor too. You know, even at a young age, he didn't go to elementary school and traditional school. And he says, you know what, I want to learn. Tell me a little bit about Trevor for a sec.
Oh gosh, yeah, he's very passionate about the things he wants to learn. He will dive in, and so we've actually decided to create his curriculum based on his passions. And so he does the standard stuff. I do basic math and English. He has to know how to write and read and, you know, spell and all that stuff. But otherwise, he just follows his passions, and he's so passionate. He'll go into like Hamilton, the musical Hamilton phase, and then we would study everything about the American Revolution. And I mean, he wants to learn it because he's so passionate. He'll want to learn the science and the history and the stories. And we went politics, and we went to DC, Washington DC, and we did a whole followed and went to the museums. And he was so interested. And he was what, like 10 at the time? And so he just gets passionate about things, and he wants to learn them for him. He's not because he has to. And I think that's the difference. Like right now he loves American football. So we made a class American football. And so he writes stories, he does statistics. He has a YouTube channel now based on his love for football. So he's very passionate, and he's very, sympathetic and compassionate, and empathetic, and just he loves to help people, and he connects with people on such a different level. It doesn't matter how old or young you are, he can connect with anybody. I mean, he could just you just look over and he's helping some lady on the street and crossing the street, like what? I mean, he just has this nature because he's grown up in the world, and since he was 5. He doesn't even remember life before in Venice. So
that is so much more valuable than a degree or any level degree, right? And you know, anyway, so tell me more about what the girls are doing. So I usually try to keep my huddles to half an hour, but then there's people like you who draw me over because there's so much to talk about, which is fine. But, you know, I know we're all so busy, even though we're not working and going to events, we're still so busy. So keep it short and sweet, but I definitely want to know about your vlogs and your blogs, and of course, Caitlin's book and the whole course.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start by explaining a little bit about the book. So it's called Sparks of Wisdom,
And
Sparks of Wisdom. I want to make sure Sparks of Wisdom. And can you get that on the website, or where, or is there a website just for you?
No, so that's also accessible on the same website. So there's a whole page for it, and you can find all the information. But it's the biggest lessons that I felt like I learned and transformed me throughout my life. And it's an accumulation of years worth of writing, journaling, writing any lesson that I learned. I love to journal throughout the years, even when I was younger. So I decided to finally compile everything I learned into one. So I went through all the old books and journals and things like that and put them all together. So it is, I say, a book written in 100 countries because it took me a long time. So it's really about how travel can change you, and the lessons that I learned through travel can help you in every area of your life.
Hold on one second. People are saying, I love this. It's so inspiring. How do I connect? So again, you can go to Global Explorer Academy, and then they can just sign up, like become a member or whatever, just give you their email, and then they'll get, and then once you sign up on the website, you'll get the downloads of anything you guys put out. So, and you can find the Sparks of Wisdom. So tell us a couple of your sparks.
Ooh, okay. There's so many. So
I know.
52 of them. I think one of my favorites is wonder. That's one of the foundational ones. That's something that's guided me my entire life. I've always been very curious and wonder about the world, and try to look beyond what's just in front of me and see the magic in everything. So wonder is definitely one of my favorites. Curiosity as well, open-heartedness, being open-hearted, unity, experiencing, for me, unity was amazing because now I see the whole world as one family beyond our labels and borders. So those are a few of them, but in there are some spark mantras as well. So I explain a little bit about how that spark changed me, how I learned it, some spark mantras that I've used over the years to really be intentional about searching for that in my daily life. Especially, and then there's the workbook as well, which has a bunch of questions for each spark. So as you're reading it, you can journal and reflect on the spark, how you can integrate it into your life. And then there's also actually a bundle that includes her coloring book.
Yeah, so I've also made a coloring book, and that coloring book was inspired by the refugees that I volunteered with, and it's about love, hope, and courage. So it's a coloring book that is meant to inspire and to give you hope, especially during these times when love, hope, and courage are really what we need to get through this. So yeah, it's a coloring book, so you can get the bundle and get them both together.
And then we give something. Yeah.
Yes, we also give one of the coloring books to the refugees themselves when we get back to Greece, and we'll be coloring with them and giving them this coloring book. So yeah, it's really exciting because we get to put all those three together. So you get her book, coloring book for yourself, and then also a coloring book to a refugee.
Ah, that is so beautiful. Truly, truly, truly inspiring. So what else is going on? What else are you guys doing? You're putting together a course?
Yes. Now you want to go on for that?
Yeah, so we're actually putting together our very first course because Caitlin and I have started our own company called Changemaker Odyssey, which is all about inspiring.
Changemaker Odyssey.
Yes.
So is there a website for that?
Yes, changemakerodyssey.com.
Okay, changemakerodyssey.com. I got to make sure because people pause. They're going to go to the website. They're going to sign up because they'll want to know this is magic. This is you're making magic. So, okay, tell us about the website.
Yes, so it's all about inspiring the future generations and the youth of today to actually make a change in the world, to stand up for what they believe in. And our course is called Rise Up because we want to inspire the younger generations to rise up. And so we're super excited for the course to come out. It's going to be coming out soon, and we're just getting it all finalized. But in the meantime, we have a master class to kind of give you a little taste about what we do. Yes, and it was released yesterday. It will be released on Monday. So we're so excited for that. And it's all about the 5 steps to discovering the change maker within you, because we
tell us your Instagram, because where else can they, because I'm sure you're putting that on your Instagram so that they can, again, get that master class. And then I have more questions. I mean, we're going to be on here for like 3 hours. Sorry. So tell us all your different handles.
Personal handles.
So we have at Changemaker Odyssey for Instagram. Then my personal is at Cassidy Capri.
Mine is Travelin Kate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll actually go onto the live and write it down for you guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so at Changemaker Odyssey is where you can find everything. You can find both of our content, our videos, sort of an accumulation of everything.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great.
And then Caitlin also has a blog that she's been writing for years called travelandkate.com. We can send that as well if you ever want to read some of her writings. She's a poet. She writes like poetry as well. It's beautiful. So there's lots to share. There's so much.
I know, and people are going to love it. You know, one question I have, you know, when I think about the teens that are in a bubble or they're in this traditional lifestyle, and you know, yes, they can do the master class. Is that going to help them, you know, like get out? Like, how would you tell them to get out of this bubble if they can't, you know, their parents aren't going to take them world traveling, or you know, the volunteering that they do is sort of, you know, mandated by their resume. You know, what is it that they can do to really snap out and say, you know, I'm just on this treadmill that somebody else put me on, you know, but they can't quit school and go travel at, you know, 14. So what can they do that will sort of help them feel more purpose and meaning?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it. There's a few in mind. I'll say
that. Yeah.
the first one is definitely getting in touch with their passions. That's something that helped us and that really pushed us to want to make a difference, because we were, I guess you could say, connected to who we are on the inside. I feel like, especially for teenagers nowadays, we are really in this box. We feel like we're supposed to dress a certain way, act a certain way, speak a certain way, and all of those things. So I think, and this is something that we talk about even in the masterclass and in all of our videos, is getting in touch with your authentic self and who you are. And that includes, I think, your foundation, like your passions, what you really are passionate about beyond what people tell you to be passionate about, and things like that. Because when they get in touch with themselves and they feel more authentic, I feel like they can understand, okay, now I want to share these passions with the world, or now I have a direction that I chose and it's my purpose and not what someone else is telling me to do. So I think that could be one of the foundational things, and that is something we also talk about a lot in all of our course as well.
I know one of the challenges that the kids have is they don't have time to figure out what they're passionate about. Like, they go to school for 8 hours and they come home and do 4 hours of homework. And if they, you know, aren't going to sleep, then they have some sort of sport, you know, club sport that they're in. So, and that's the thing I'm sort of most sad about, is that they're so busy planning and working towards this thing that's way out there. I actually heard one mom say to her daughter who is trying to decide between colleges, make the 40-year decision, not the 4-year decision. And I was like, what is going to be, if nobody knows what the world's going to be in 40 years, you don't know who this person's going to be in 4, you don't know who she's going to be in 4 years. Like, make the 4-month decision. Like it's all about now, right now. So, you know, so anyway, I mean, any advice about, you know, how do they sort of set themselves free? And I think just listening to this and seeing that there is another way, like, you know, they sort of have this little peek into this, you know, room of like, wait a minute, what? I'm not just stuck here, will really help them. So,
and they've been setting some like life coaching courses and how to do these. So there is some coaching in there, like the stuff that we've learned through different, how to find those passions. There's workbooks and things. So there are some techniques on how to do that, right, in your courses as well. And they have 3 courses. There's tell about all 3. So there is like a series of them to keep you, right? What are they called?
Yeah, Rise Up, Stand Up, and Speak Up.
ah,
Journey.
seriously, like, it's so amazing. It's so amazing what you're doing for the world, what you're I don't even care what you're doing for the world, what you're doing for me. Like, I'm going to be like, this is like my path. I feel so lucky to meet you. All these people are just super excited. What you're doing is so important. Thank you so much. I mean, you really, really are, you know, being the change that we all want to see in the world. And and what you're doing is inspiring us to do it as well. And so I'm just so grateful. I have the luxury of being able to talk to you whenever I want. So I feel guilty cutting this off from all these other people, but But what else would you guys, like to add in the end? Is there anything that we missed, or certainly people now know where to find you, and I'm excited for that. But what else?
Yeah, so we actually, I'm actually a director of an organization that we started with our friends called Humanity Up. We founded it at Mind Valley.
Humanity Up, okay?
Humanity Up. You can find us on Instagram. And so the organization is all about empowering youth in a community. And so Changemaker Odyssey is more about like being a social enterprise, training the steps for individual change makers, while Humanity Up is just more about creating this community of young change makers and really uniting them together so that they can connect with one another and network. So that's something that if there are young change makers listening in, go check out Humanity Up, because we love to collab. Humanity.up on Instagram.
Humanity.up. I love it. I'm going to be telling my nieces, I'm going to have Tessa reach out to you. And that's exactly, I didn't even give you a chance to answer but that's exactly what I was hoping for, is that there's something that they can do right now from their desk, from their home, even if they can't, do the traveling yet, and to have that vision that they can travel one day, even if they can't do it right now because their parents aren't doing it, that's something that they can aspire to.
Yeah. And then one more, they just started Changemaker Odyssey community. So they're doing, you can choose, they have the Humanity Up's like a bigger community with lots of other change makers around the world. And then they're also cultivating an intimate community of change makers called Changemaker Odyssey community on Facebook, right? Yeah. Yeah. So there's lots of opportunities to join.
I love it. Any of those, and a Global Explorer Academy, that's where they can find sort of all of you and connect. And send you messages, at least, if there's a place to contact you, because I think that's what people are going to want is, okay, now how do I find out about this or that or this? So
everything's there. You can find it all through, you can just contact us and we'll send them everything. If you just want to go to one place, that's probably the one place you can find us all.
Well, I can promise all of my viewers that we will 100% be doing this again, because they are evolving every month with something new and something great. Gina, I want to follow you and keep telling people how you're building out what you're creating, because it's just so, you guys are really doing amazing work. And, so is Todd and Trevor, who aren't with us today, but, your whole family. And I'm just so grateful. I don't want this to end. So anyway, I'm going to get a cup of coffee, and I don't drink coffee. We'll just keep talking. But I know you guys have a lot to do. You need to get back and finish your courses, but thank you from my heart to your heart. And you're just such wonderful role models, and all three of you. And thank you for what you're doing. And I'm excited for more people to find you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is so fun.
So fun. Okay, so now this is where I say bye to everybody on Instagram. And we say, oh my gosh, where are all these people? Okay, hold on. I have to download it, and then I have to share it. And then I go over here. Okay, you guys, thank you so much. I love you. And I'm just so proud. We'll see you soon.